Texas Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett now saying she would strongly consider a run for U.S. Senate as the state's redistricting battle threatens her House seat.
You serious?
You know, I'm seriously thinking we should just keep the costume going. Because all I know is ever since I put on the hat for Halloween, the Dodgers won out. We won the World Series. We sent those sorry, sucky Canadians packing. So this is for you, a Mark Carney, a Doug Ford, a Rivia Chow. Okay, you know good. We annex you now. 51st state. So, you know, I'm thinking that maybe we should just do this on election night, right? I will talk about election result like this. And a New York City and a Zorhan, and then maybe Republicans will win. Maybe it's the lucky hat. I'm not a superstitious guy, but I'm just saying. Although, no, in all seriousness, it is genuinely really hard to record with that hat. Like the video I did, it was falling off. But look, it's going to protect us, okay? When we talk about a Jasmine Crockett, she no good. The hat will protect us from all of her low IQ stupidity. But nonetheless, guys, in today's video, getting to the actual topic and subject today, I do want to tell you about some recent developments out of Texas politics that could result in the total implosion, not just of the Texas Democrat Party, but even Jasmine Crockett's own personal career. And I know there's always a lot of videos saying this, her career is over, so-and-so, but I mean that sincerely, because when it comes to this recent decision she is hinting at, which is that she will be running for a Senate, okay, against a Ted Cruz, because, as you know, the new redistricting map in Texas draws her district out. This is something that would be a complete career implosion. You know, you look at the current state of the polls, she is leading as you would expect, right? Because all of the insane No Kings Democrat protesters are a big fan of her and supposedly the way she fights back against Donald Trump or something like that. But meanwhile, in reality, I mean, we all know this, right? It is Texas. It is a state, obviously, that Democrats are unlikely to win anyway. But in the event that you run Jasmine Crockett in a midterm election, yeah, I'm sure that's not going to backfire at all. I'm sure there's not going to be a complete reality check when it comes to how popular she actually is in real America, right? Not this echo chamber of the MSNBC and the No King of Protester, but the actual electorate of America. Because we've been talking about this, but I think especially ever since Zoran Mondani won the primary, there's this belief among Democrat circles that this is clearly an obvious sign of a progressive mandate nationwide. Because we upset a really bad candidate who ran a really bad establishment campaign in a super deep blue Democrat primary, therefore clearly the rest of the country wants the so-called fighters, which AKA means radical progressives like Zoran or just very annoying, loud, you know, individuals like Jasmine Crockett herself. And that is obviously not the case. But I have to say, amidst all of this chatter, this is something I am truly rooting for her to do, because when the inevitable, I mean, don't get complacent, obviously go vote in 2026, although that's a long ways away, but let's be real about this. When the inevitable happens and she loses to Ted Cruz, guess what? She will also not have a congressional seat or a Senate seat, right? She's going to basically make a decision here that is destined to destroy her entire political career before it even started. But oh, I thought she was supposed to be the future, right? But yeah, again, Jasmine Crockett apparently seriously considering a decision to run for Senate in Texas, and we'll tell you in a second why. That is such bad news for the Democrat Party, coming up in one moment. Copper prices are breaking out again. This is more than a price move. It's the market finally realizing how important copper is to Trump. Last month, the administration hit copper imports with a 50% tariff, and it's clear this is the signal. Trump knows they need to refine copper in the US and cut out China, who refines over 45% of the world's copper. Why? Because if you control copper, you control AI infrastructure and defense production of huge importance to this administration. But here's where it gets interesting. The US is currently quietly moving away from Asia and looking to establish supply chains in friendly, closer jurisdictions. The government has even started taking stakes in copper companies in an effort to control those supply chains. This is truly historical, and we don't think the market has necessarily caught up, and that is why many are extremely bullish on copper, and in particular, today's sponsor, Copper Giant Resources. Their ticker is CGNT on the Toronto Stock Exchange, and LBCMF here in the US, so you can learn more and do your own research. This company owns 100% of the Macoa Copper Project in southern Colombia, one of the largest undeveloped copper systems in the Americas. Where it gets even better is that the company's CEO, Ian Harris, was recently invited to the U.S. Embassy in Bogota to discuss shipping concentrate to U.S. refineries here instead of China. This came right after the copper tariff was announced, so you can see the moves going on here. Copper Giant currently trades at a $30 million market cap with a 2.1 million ton copper resource estimate. For a project of this scale and Trump's new interest in copper refining, this seems to be incredibly undervalued. Once the market realizes the U.S. is securing its copper supply through closer nations like Colombia, people may wake up. Policy, politics in a hot resource market, the setup is there. So that's why I encourage you to do your own research and learn more about Copper Giant for yourself. This is a sponsored post and not financial advice, but Copper Giant could deserve a hard look. Visit the link below to learn more about Copper Giant Resources. It's first of all important to thank Texas Governor Greg Abbott and the Texas Republicans for redistricting here, because you may remember one of the key things they did in order to tip a map more favorably to the Republicans is take out some of the majority minority black districts in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, right? We've covered before, but this is something, the racial gerrymandering that is legally and federally mandated by Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. It's ridiculous that it even exists. You know, it's basically like DEI when it comes to congressional maps. You can't even draw them based on actual geography. You got to do it based on essentially racial discrimination. But nonetheless, what the Texas GOP essentially did was find a loophole where they could say, oh, we could take away a black district and put in a majority Hispanic district instead. And because of the fact that Tejanos are moving more and more to the right, that's actually going to be a brand new Republican district for our side. So that said, the issue that Jasmine Crockett and another Democrat congressman are basically facing right now is now their districts are being merged into one, and they have to make a decision in terms of who's actually going to be the one that runs for the new seat. And this is why we said before, right? Jasmine Crockett is basically having her old congressional seat drawn out. Well, because of that, right? Because her hand has been forced, again, thank you for that, Greg Abbott, she's now floating the possibility that instead of trying to compete with another Democrat for that congressional seat, may be eyeing a Senate run in Texas, which is actually a really bad idea for her, and we'll explain why in a little bit. But first, let's take a listen to her little announcement here.
I've heard you talk about the potential of a Senate run. How seriously are you weighing that? Because there are some deadlines looming here.
I am seriously weighing it to the extent that I'm about to spend a lot of money to get data. So I'm a data-driven person. I will tell you that.
Oh, really? Are you? Are you driven by the data of crime rates in your own district, for instance? I don't think that's the case, but okay.
I personally believe that Texas needs to do something different if they want a different result. That's just the bottom line.
How far are you in exploring? Who have you talked to? Have you interviewed potential campaign staff? Like, where are you at?
Well, yeah. So we've talked to. There's only one person that I can see leading this team. It's somebody that I've known for years, somebody that I trust, and somebody who's very experienced. I will not put him out there.
But you've had that conversation.
Oh, absolutely. We've had multiple conversations, and we just took a meeting face to face here a few days ago. As I was kind of running down what I'm thinking if numbers kind of show what I think they may show. And obviously, we are weighing who may be the nominee on the Republican side. I mean,
you don't understand numbers remotely to begin with. But with all of that said, I think it is worth noting that she says there's only one person she would potentially choose as a campaign manager. And I really do have to ask just because it comes up. Is that because you drove off all other campaign managers and congressional staffers because by all accounts you're a horrible and abusive boss? I don't know. I'm just saying.
Which is the real Jasmine Crockett, though? Well, the call for public service came and Jasmine answered. But back to that Atlantic profile, they saw something else in Crockett, a raging narcissism. And for a woman who claims to be so tough, she has exceedingly thin skin. They described her as highly conscious of her self-presentation. Crockett wore acrylic nails painted with the word resist and a set of heavy lashes over her brown eyes. The lock screen on her phone is a headshot of herself. And Crockett apparently thinks she should be able to control to whom a journalist speaks when they're actually reporting a profile. 4 days before this story was published, Crockett called me to express frustration that I had reached out to so many House members without telling her first. She told me, shutting down the profile and revoking all permissions. Yeah. And yet another gem that speaks to Crockett's highly racialized view of the world from the same profile. Crockett said that Hispanic Trump supporters had almost like a slave mentality. I asked Crockett whether she had ever regrets about her public comments. She raised her eyebrows and replied, "I don't second guess." You know how that ends. Well, bless her heart.
Minor correction, by the way. Sorry, I've been traveling all weekend. I believe I did say in the intro that Ted Cruz was the one who was going to be running for re-election this year. It's John Cornyn, right? And so that Republican primary right now is looking like a 2 to 3 potentially way race between him, the incumbent, Ken Paxton, the Texas Attorney General, and Congressman Wesley Hunt. Here's the thing. Whoever the Republican candidate is doesn't really matter, because when you break down, right, just how insane Jasmine Crockett's own narcissism is, right? Her lock screen on her phone is herself. She demands basically that her staff drive her around in like rented black Cadillacs and all this nonsense. That I think in her own head, her ego is convincing her seriously that she can actually do it. Because in reality, she doesn't stand a chance. And again, she's probably the single worst candidate that the Democrats could run if they think maybe there's a political weakness with Ken Paxton, because although he's the most conservative potential candidate, there's all the scandals and that stuff. That's easily going to be wiped away in like 2 seconds by Jasmine Crockett's ridiculously off-putting and annoying personality. But again, the Democrats and the Democrat voter base don't see her that way. And it's just, she especially, right, personally thinks she's super appealing. So I am fully hoping here that Jasmine Crockett's narcissism, self-delusion, and ego does consume her, and she does make this decision again to basically destroy her entire political career. And we'll break down the actual numbers for you in a second, but first, let's hear the rest of what she has to say about this.
And I'm going to be flat out with you and tell you that I don't think that there's a Democrat that can take out Cornyn. And I think NRSCC knows that, which is why they are spending so much money in this primary to make sure that he is the nominee. But for me, I would be making a very last minute decision, because it's not just about winning the primary. You got to win the general. So by the time we start spending money, I think it's less about people learning, oh, there's a Jasmine Crockett. Who is she? And it's more about like, all right, do we like her enough to go out and knock doors, to make phone calls, to send text messages, to tell our neighbors, to get people riled up?
Oh, really, Jasmine Crockett? It's about winning the general election, you say? I'm not sure you're the best candidate for that task, but hey, I encourage you, Jasmine, you got to believe in yourself, right? Chase your dreams, disprove the doubters. That's a fantastic idea. But that said, here's exactly why I say the Democrat Party is screwed if she does get in the race, is that she's very likely to win the Democrat primary. Why is that? Because it's no secret, we've already seen the hardcore radicalization and polarization of the Democrat voter base. They're becoming increasingly militant, right? No kings, no kings. We know that Jasmine Crockett is essentially a darling of that insane, deranged anti-Trump voter base that you can guarantee is showing up to every single election, and that includes the Democrat primary, which is why the current polls within that Democrat primary for the Texas Senate currently look like this. Jasmine Crockett against Colin Allred. Currently, Jasmine Crockett leads the other Democrat there 57-34, a dominant victory in other words. And even against James Tallarico, if you guys don't know who this is, you might recognize him. He is the Texas Democrat state legislator that is one of the people who fled to Illinois and J.B. Pritzker in order to block the redistricting vote. Remember this clown right here? He's doing all the interviews. And like, don't get me wrong, this guy is not impressive at all. He's completely uninspiring. He's like a Walmart version of Pete Buttigieg. But basically, the establishment Democrats seem to think in him, they found their next Beto O'Rourke because he can like talk very boringly or something like that. And therefore, they think this guy guy is more electable than Crockett, which they're probably correct about simply because, he's not like insanely obnoxious and annoying. He won't drive Republican turnout, I should say, with how just off-putting and threatening he is. But nonetheless, right, versus that actual establishment darling, you see Jasmine Crockett right now, 52-34. And what I think is currently causing a little bit of panic, not just among these candidates, but the internal Texas Democrat Party, is that she's absolutely blowing them out. And frankly, I mean, let's be real about it. She has the most name recognition. She's very popular with the Democrat base. Sometimes a lot of political figures have this tendency to say, oh, don't blame the voters, blame the politicians. But in the case of the current Democrat voter base, no, they're actually significantly more radical and angry and militant even than their own mainline politicians, hence why Jasmine Crockett, Zoran Mondani, figures like that are starting to become more popular. And as a result, the establishment is trying to basically cave and hand the party over in fear of losing their own power. So, that's very likely to happen. She's going to receive a lot of airtime, a lot of national support, because after all, one thing she is good at is being extremely, extremely loud. So, this is what it's looking like might actually happen. Now, that said, if you're wondering how Jasmine Crockett's early Senate campaign is going, well, it should not come as much of a surprise to find out that includes her not even understanding the basic concepts of how the Senate even works, right?
Right now that there is a debate about funding the government. I've been a little bit confused because Republicans, last time I checked, are in control of the House of Representatives.
You ain't
They're
confused.
in control of the Senate, and then the president signs the bill. Okay, but I've heard people suggest that Democrats somehow have the ability to shut the government down. So can you please educate the people on what's happening?
No, you are not confused.
Okay, all right.
You are a
Thank you.
lawmaker. You understand how this works. And, Republicans don't know how to count. But here's the thing. When you're in a legislative body, you control everything. So if the government shuts down, it's on y'all.
So maybe I should have explained that clip before we played it because she doesn't speak English. So if you were confused as to what she was saying, she was trying to say that the government shutdown is the fault of Republicans because they control all of the legislative chambers. Of course, as you should well be familiar with, that is not true because of, guess what? The filibuster. The filibuster requires you to have 60 votes. That's a bipartisan consensus, in other words, to pass a budget or funding bill, which obviously Democrats are withholding. Now, it should, again, not be all that surprising that in her Senate campaign, she's clearly demonstrating the fact she doesn't even know how the Senate works. I don't think she knows how a microwave works, to be completely honest with you. I think the microwaves are even racist because they confuse her or something like that. But yeah, good job, Democrats. I'm sure this campaign is going to go absolutely amazingly. And by the way, in more news of, again, her early little proto-Senate campaign before she formally announces it, here is her as well hanging out with Jane Fonda. That is right. The traitor herself with the new traitor, I guess.
Hi, I'm Jane Fonda, and I'm here with Jasmine Crockett, Congresswoman from Texas, and she knows what redistricting, what gerrymandering means. She is so powerful in Congress that the GOP want to get rid of her district in Texas. They've redistricted her house out of her district. We have to vote yes on Prop 50, don't we, Jasmine?
Absolutely. So, November 4th, California, we need you to stand up. You just heard it from the queen herself, okay? It is time for us to fight fire with fire. Instead of having one hand behind our backs, I need you to show up. This is about our democracy. This isn't about just me being in Texas. It's about our voices. It's about making sure that there is a check on the power that, is out of control in D.C. So make sure you vote yes on Prop 50 on November 4th.
Please do it. Yes on Prop 50.
I mean, guys, this actually perfectly summarizes everything we've been talking about for a long time. Because here you have Jasmine Crockett, new upstart, rising star of the Democrat Party, the future, hanging out with her actual supporter and voter base in a potential Democrat primary, which is who? An extremely old, washed up geriatric leftist who still is living in her past glory days of protesting stuff back in the 1960s And there you go, right? That's the average No Kings protester she is standing next to. Democrat Party for you, ladies and gentlemen. I do have to say, though, the fact that, Crockett is referring to Fonda as a queen, and obviously Jane Fonda is basically like a normal mainstream figure within Democrat politics, does also further demonstrate to you a lot of the actual radicalization pretty clearly in plain sight of the Democrat Party that we talk about. Because let's be clear about this. I mean, Jane Fonda was a seditious traitor. Okay, this is someone who didn't just protest against the Vietnam War because, I don't want America to be involved in foreign entanglements. No, she literally went to go live with the North Vietnamese, live with the communists that America was at war at, and did this whole propaganda tour of, they're so amazing, they're such nice people. I mean, okay, baby boomers watching this video, can any of you explain to me, because obviously I wasn't alive back then, why was she never arrested for treason or sedition or something, right? Banned from re-entering the United States? Like, literally, it would be like, essentially, America's at war with ISIS, and then some liberal activist says, I'm going to go live with ISIS. It's like, we're literally fighting those people. You understand? That's betraying a country, and the Democrats are like, yay. Why is that, though? Why is that? Let's be very clear about this. Is because, as I've been trying to tell people, you are talking about an institution here, the Democrat Party, that is actually infiltrated and subverted and basically ran nowadays by the Marxists, by the communists. Worth noting, too, that while there were a lot of anti-Vietnam, it's very similar to the Palestine thing today. This is actually a really good analogy. While there were a lot of anti-Vietnam War protesters who maybe were sincere in that, look, we just don't want America to be involved in this conflict, bring the boys home, whatever. It's worth noting a big reason why what became the modern left were so involved in that is not because they were against war or against getting involved in that stuff. It's not because they were America first. It's because they were leftists. And who were we fighting in Vietnam, right? The communists. And so what they did essentially is hijack that movement and then take it, again, one step further. It's not just that we're against the war. It's like, let's just go live with the NVA. And you see that in the same situation today, right? They say, end the war, end the genocide, we want a ceasefire now, but then you dig deeper through the curtain. It's like, a lot of these Palestine activists, it's not just because they're against war, they're against quote-unquote genocide. It's actually because, right, they are basically trying to import and, as they say themselves, right, globalize the intifada, and that's what it's really about. So, little sidetrack conversation, but I just wanted to briefly show you, apparently, this is how Jasmine Crockett, guys, is going to be campaigning for Senate. Here's the thing, though, right? And why I find this news to be so hilarious, not just for the Democrats, who probably, let's be realistic, are going to lose in Texas anyway. It's particularly because of Jasmine Crockett. Again, you're talking about someone here, the future. She's young. She has a bright thing ahead in politics. And yet, essentially, what she's looking to do is repeat the same mistake as, say, Stacey Abrams or Beto, which is, she has a safe seat right now. It's getting drawn out, but she could easily just run in the new congressional district and still likely win that, right? She probably beat the other Democrat in the primary because she's, again, very popular with the Democrats, but because of the ego, because of the clout chasing, she's going to say, I'm going to run for Senate, and they're going to win. She doesn't win. And then guess what she's going to be without? Okay, she's going to be SOL because she's not going to have any political position. So she could try to say run for governor in 2026. Guess what's going to happen then? She's going to collapse and fail again. Again, Beto did this. Stacey Abrams did this. So this is Jasmine Crockett taking a one-way ticket to irrelevance. And that's why I say if she goes forward with this, very likely to end her political career genuinely. We're not saying that because of clickbait. We're saying that because it's true. And for obvious reasons, I have to say I'm all here for it. So Democrats, right? Please, you're so right, right? That's what all Americans are looking for, because Zoran Mondani won in New York City, and Jasmine Crockett, again, is popular with Jane Fonda, okay? She's BFFs with this person. Clearly, all of America wants these, like, aggressive, rude, vulgar, off-putting, radical people to be running, especially in states that are not historically Democrat. Yeah, that's a fantastic idea. But all right, there you go, guys. With that said, let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comment section down below. Be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and until next time, God bless and peace. As a Vietnamese American, I am personally offended by a use of Jane Fonda in a campaign ad for Jasmine Crockett. No good. We will personally be donating $10 million to opposition campaign for Jasmine Crockett. and communist Jane Fonda is no good. This hat, I can't even take any video of my own serious. No, but it's so true.